The story begins with Shiraishi Hanano, a 32-year-old woman, cooking with a much younger boy right next to her. The boy informed her that he had finished swapping out the light bulb. Shiraishi thanked him because if she tried it herself, his hands wouldn't reach. She was saved by the fact her neighbor was such a dependable young man. He said that he was glad to be of help because he liked her. She froze at first, but then smiled and responded that she liked him too. Yoshio said that he didn't mean it like that. He didn't just like her, he loved her and wanted to marry her. Shiraishi said that he shouldn't be teasing an old lady like her, but Yoshio was dead serious. She said that this was a little strange because she was older and was married once before, and she even had a daughter. She wondered why he liked her, and he responded that around when his daily life as a solitary college student began, Shiraishi greeted her and gave him warm home-cooking meals. When he got sick living on his own and felt like he was dying, she was there as his protector. Recalling those memories made him emotional, and he confessed his love once again. He said that those were all reasons he liked her, but in particular, the deciding factor was her breasts. He liked that her breasts were quite large. Shiraishi was not expecting an answer like that. As she caught him staring at her breasts, Shiraishi stated that he shouldn't be hoping for anything pervy, because even though they were close, she was drawing a hard line. Yoshio froze when she said that. Eventually, he stated that he understood her and knew how she felt about him. He hadn't been hoping for anything, and for that reason, he decided to go home for today. Shiraishi stopped him and stated that it wasn't like she disliked him. It's just that she wasn't that young anymore and wasn't really confident. He would hate to disappoint him. Hearing this, Yoshio froze. When she saw him like that, she decided to let him touch them with his fingertips. Yoshio came back to life and poked her breasts. Shiraishi panicked and hit his hand, telling him it was enough. Yoichi was disappointed and tried to touch her more, but she said that this sort of thing should be kept for after marriage. This made him think that she was thinking of marrying him, so she had to explain to him that he was still a college student, and once he graduated, she would give it a little thought for him. Hearing this, Yoshio stated that he was thinking of dropping out. Shiraishi thought he was dropping out because of her, but he said that he failed to advance, so he thought it was enough. In that case, she said that marriage and stuff would be out of the picture. Yoshio was not worried about that because his parents had a lot of money that he could not be a burden on them. Shiraishi decided to start over, and eventually convinced him to give up on dropping out. In the next chapter, Yoshio is greeted by Shiraishi Karen, who is Shiraishi's 12-year-old daughter. She asked if he would like to play her new game together in a flirty way. Yoshio blushed like a pervert, and he actually needed to be in jail for that. But before he could say anything, Shiraishi reminded her that she promised that she would let him watch over her study. Yoshio suggested playing after they were done studying. She seemed okay with this plan, and they started studying at the kitchen table. As they started studying, Karen asked if he had someone he liked. This question made both Yoshio and Shiraishi froze. Yoshio didn't want to lie to her, so he said that there was a person his heart was set on. She asked what they were like, and if it was from university. He responded that he was completely alone at university. He said that the person that he liked was her mommy. Karen was too stunned to speak. Shiraishi tried to interfere, but Karen asked if that was true. As Shiraishi objected, Yoshio went further and stated that he also proposed to her. Karen was shocked, but then asked what he liked about her. He seriously answered that her cooking was delicious, and she was a thoughtful, considerate person. And whenever they were together, he really felt comfortable. He didn't stop and continued to explain that she was a mature woman, but when she laughed, it was like she turned into a young girl, which was so lovely and made his heart pound. But most importantly, he decided to marry her because of her breasts. Karen asked her mother if she was going to marry Yoshio, and Shiraishi couldn't really say anything at first. She asked Karen if she suddenly had a new dad. It would be difficult. Karen agreed. Shiraishi said that when it comes to marriage, it wasn't just her problem, so she can't just answer him that easily. Karen asked if she would marry him, if she was fine with it. Yoshio figured things out and stated that he also loves Karen. He said that he had confidence that he could love both of them equally. They were both shocked and said it was a little early to be saying that. However, Yoshio looked at Shiraishi with expectations. She was pretty nervous. Eventually, she stated that it was impossible for now. Yoshio was devastated. Karen agreed and said that he was a bit unreliable to become a father. Seeing him on the ground with no hope, Karen told him to cheer up and reminded him that her mother said, "for now," which means he might just get that chance in the future. But Yoshio didn't seem to be relieved. She recalled that the reason he wanted to marry her mother was her breasts, so she suggested letting him touch her breasts instead of her mother's. Yoshio and Shiraishi were shocked, and Yoshio recalled the flirty rubbing experience they had earlier. As he was about to celebrate her offer, Shiraishi stopped them and told Karen that she could not let a boy touch her like that so easily. Yoshio put his morals and laws aside and told Shiraishi to not come between him and Karen, which led her to get furious and scold them both for being idiots. Yoshio was still insisting on touching an elementary student's breasts with the excuse of healing his heart because Hanano dumped him. Hanano stated that she didn't fully dump him, and she still thought he was a good kid. She added that he was decent, and once Karen became an adult, he could talk to her about this. Yoshio was not the smartest kid, so he asked her to explain a little more. She said that she wanted him to go to university properly, but Yoshio stated that he didn't want this. Karen and Hamamo seemed tired. Hanano Shiraishi, a single mother who had a 12-year-old daughter, had a secret that she was embarrassed about. She was an adult manga artist. It was an embarrassing job to do it, but she didn't think about it that much. Rather, she does it for the sake of raising her daughter, and she was proud of that. But if the secret ever gets out, she would be so embarrassed. That aside, while Yoshio was playing with Karen, she had a chance to complete this manuscript, and today was the end of her deadline. She continued working for hours, but eventually fell asleep like the others. When she woke up, she looked for her manuscript, and it was in Yoshio's hands. He started teasing her for drawing about a college student and a single mother's neighbor, which was them. He suddenly flipped her top and grabbed her waist. He said that he didn't know she was holding herself back and was about to start the business. Hanano woke up sweating from this dream. She looked at the clock and remembered that she sent the manuscript and fell asleep. She needed to make dinner for Karen. Yoshio came and stated that he bought some sushi for her. Karen was taking a bath and he said that he also got some hot eye masks and some compress pads that seemed good for stiff shoulders. She thanked him. As they sat next to each other, Yoshio asked if being a manga artist was hard. Hanano was shocked. Yoshio remembered that this was supposed to be a secret. He said that Karen told him that her mother draws ecchi manga. Hanano was so embarrassed. She turned her back to him, but he grabbed her wrist and told her that there was nothing to be embarrassed about because she was doing this job to raise Karen. Hearing these words, Hanano was relieved so much that she let her body a little. She felt a little dizzy, so she was leaning on Yoshio. They ended up being a little too close, but before anything could happen, Karen came out of the bathroom and asked if he was staying over that day. She only had a towel wrapped around her, so Hanano told her that Yoshio was there, which wasn't a good look. Things got worse, and Karen's towel dropped, reviewing his body. Yoshio said that while he was not lying about his feelings and wanted to marry her since he had seen Karen's nakedness, he said he had to take responsibility and marry Karen now. In the next chapter, Hanano prepares dinner for everyone, and they eat it together with Yoshio. After finishing up the food, he commented how delicious her rice was. They started drinking tea, while Yoshio was talking about how he wanted to eat this every day for every meal, and live together with her. He also considered themselves as a couple, because they eat almost every day. But Hanano said that this was a little exaggeration. He responded that if they were not a married couple, he was just coming over to eat. He asked her what she would say was essential to a married life. She said that there was got to be a mutual help. Yoshio thought about what to do. He couldn't cook and couldn't clean, because her house was always clean. He also didn't know about manual labor. The only thing he could do was to hug Hanano. She wasn't sure this could be considered as mutual help. Yoshio stated that hugging someone could reduce stress, and suggested trying it once. She refused him, saying that there was already a line that he shouldn't cross. She was not so easy that he could just cheer her up with a hug. Yoshio seemed shocked and asked if she was going to divorce him, even though they weren't married yet. He said that just because they were married doesn't mean she liked to have a skinship, so he promised to not say such things in the future. Hanano corrected him that she didn't mind skinship, but it wasn't good right now, and asked if he didn't like the flirting part. Yoshio asked what that was, and she said that they could hug just for a few seconds. She opened her arms and told him to come. He was trembling as he got closer to her and then hugged her for a few seconds. When he pulled himself back, Hanano asked if it was over already. She realized what kind of face she was making, and then explained that nothing happened there. She also banned hugs. Yoshio blamed himself for being useless. She told him that he was really useful. She reminded him that he always kept Karen company, which was a hard job because she was full of energy. Yoshio seemed alive again and decided to not join the society. Instead, he was going to aim to be her house husband. In the next scene, Karen was talking about how Yoshio proposed to her mother and then got dumped. She said that if he could turn into a dependable man, her mom would be okay with it. So with that purpose, she decided to make him a man someone could count on. Yoshio was happy that she was going to support his relationship with Hanano. He was confused as to how to become a man she could rely on. Karen stated that if there was a man you could trust, it was a macho man. She told him to take his shirt off. He did what she said, and it seemed like Hanano was also curious. Yoshio said that he would rather not work out. Karen asked her mother if she would rather have him be a macho, and she responded that there was something about a man's muscles that was just irresistible. Karen told Yoshio to start muscle training right away. He said that strength training was all about pushing the body to the limit, and it wasn't about physical strength, it was about mental toughness. And he didn't have that kind of guts, so he couldn't do it. Karen stated that this was a pathetic thing to say, with such force. Yoshio asked if there was anything easier. She suggested a princess carry. She said that a man should be able to lift girls with ease. She was sure her mother would love a man who could carry her like how they do it at weddings. The idea of this seemed appealing to Hanano. Karen told him to give it a try. Yoshio easily carried Karen, and then Karen pushed Hanano, telling Yoshio to try this on her mother. Yoshio was confident that he would lift her easily, but when he tried it, Hanano was too heavy. He apologized and stated that he couldn't lift her. The dream of their wedding crushed in her eyes. She apologized for being so heavy. Karen asked Yoshio what he was doing, because this was his chance to show them that he could be dependable. Yoshio apologized to Hanano and stated that he was sure her job as a manga artist used a lot of her brain, making her crave more sweets, and she was so busy that she didn't have time to exercise. He didn't even realize that his words were like knives stabbing her body. He even said that it might be just her boobs that might be heavy. Karen stopped his nonsense and asked if he was going to train his body to lift her mother. Yoshio decided to show his guts for Hanano and positioned himself to do push-ups, but he couldn't even do one push-up. He said that he had given it his all twice, and now he was going to be sore tomorrow. He said that he would never be able to continue strength training. Karen understood and said that she couldn't make him into a man her mother could rely on, so they should start over. In the next scene, Karen asks Yoshio if he will sleep over tonight, but before he can answer, Hanano refuses. Karen said that she never allowed sleepovers and didn't let him stay over there before either. She responded to her daughter that some things have boundaries. Yoshio was a man, and that sort of indecency was not allowed. Karen was confused, so she also mentioned that she just wanted to stay up and play around, which was bad for her body. Karen started having a tantrum over Yoshio, but Hanano wasn't stepping back. Yoshio tried to step in, but Hanano told him to be quiet. Karen said that if Hanano just married him, then there wouldn't be a problem. She asked why haven't she married him yet. Yoshio interrupted again to save her in this tough situation, but she told him to stay out of this. She said that marriage wasn't something that could be easily decided. Karen had an idea, and she hopped on Yoshio's lap, saying that if she didn't need him, she would take Yoshio. She asked Yoshio if he would marry her when she was 18. Yoshio thought about it for a moment, and a sleepover would be fine when Karen was his bride, and Hanano was his mother-in-law. Hanano got angry and asked him what he thought the two of them were saying. Yoshio figured that she might kill him, so he suggested going home at 9 o'clock. Karen was also fine with that, so Hanano had to accept it. She told them to not make too much noise because she had work to do. At 8:40, Karen was about to fall asleep while playing with Yoshio. He noticed her and told her to go to bed. He knocked on Hanano's room and informed her that Karen was about to sleep. Hanano Hanano led her to her bed, but Karin still wanted to play as she had 20 minutes left. Hanano convinced her to lie down, and before she fell asleep, Karin made her promise that she would play with them too the next time. Hanano went to the living room and thanked Yoshio for keeping her complacent. It seemed that the kid finds playing with him so fun that she can't help herself. She commented that she felt kind of jealous. Yoshio immediately took her seriously and told her that he loved them both equally. Yoshio then seriously asked what she was thinking about marriage so that he could look after Karin anytime. Hanano looked at him playfully and asked what should she do. Yoshio wasn't expecting her to respond like that, but she was just kidding. In the next chapter, Shiraishi Reina, Hanano's younger sister, comes to visit them. Karin greeted her, and she noticed the alcohol in her bag. She asked if she was going to stay over tonight. Reina confirmed her and asked if she would join them. Karin said that she would sleep and not want to be bothered by her. At noon, when they were drinking, Reina was complaining about her boss. She kicked his boss, that's why she got fired. She then wondered the guy who was sitting there nonchalantly. Hanano introduced him. Reina was surprised that her big sister let a man in her house. Reina wasn't good at critical thinking, so she just offered him some beers. As they were drinking, Reina mentioned how the thought of work made her feel like crap and asked if Yoshio also think that way. Yoshio said that he could relate. Rather than the thought of work, he was more afraid of dealing with other people at work. Reina agreed with him. She said that she could see he had his troubles at college. Yoshio said that he didn't even go there. She asked if he was spending his time working. He said that he was just mooching off his parents. Reina wished to have a talent like her sister to have a fun job. Hanano said that it wasn't about talent. She had to make sure she acquired those talents, and anyone could experience that. Reina said that that was the thinking of the go-getters of the world, and she wasn't like them. Hanano laughed and told Yoshio to not become like her. Yoshio said that he had two older brothers. They were both peerless overachievers, who do their best for everything, so the more useless he was, the more they spoiled him. This made Reina somehow relieved. As she got close to him, she noticed that he had a pretty face. She said that if he'd go out with her, she would let him do as he pleased while bragging about her boobs. She suggested spending time together, just the two of them. This was an extremely charming suggestion. Hanano panicked and said that they couldn't do that. Yoshio and Reina looked puzzled. Yoshio suddenly apologized to Reina and stated that he had already decided that his marriage partner would be Hanano. Reina was shocked. She realized that he wasn't just a normal neighbor after all, but as Hanano's partner, Reina thought he would be better off as a normal neighbor. Hanano explained that the marriage wasn't a decided matter yet. Reina said that if he liked her big sister, he shouldn't have been on board with her suggestion. Yoshio defended himself by saying that Reina was so beautiful and her breasts were also so large. This was indeed not a logical defense. Reina woke up hangover and regretted drinking too much last night before. She went to the kitchen where Hanano was and asked where was Karin. Hanano responded that she went to school a while ago and asked her if leftover curry would be fine for lunch. Reina was so hungry, so she didn't care what they were having. She just wanted to eat. They cleaned up every plate on the table. As they were sipping their teas, Reina asked her sister if she was going to get married to Yoshio. Hanano froze, so she reminded her that she said something like that yesterday. Hanano explained that Yoshio was always proposing to her, but she wasn't planning to accept for now. Reina stressed the phrase, for now, and asked if she liked Yoshio. Even just asking made her nervous, but Reina said that it was something that concerned her as her sister. Hanano responded that she didn't dislike him, and that he was a good kid. Reina teased her for answering like a middle schooler going through puberty. Then she got serious, and told her that she didn't want to be harsh in saying this, but it was better to end things with Yoshio. She said that Yoshio was the same kind of person as her, and she had to drive him to the wall fairly hard, otherwise he wouldn't do anything. So if she was just going out, it was fine, but if she got married, it would be bad for her. She knew she decided to toil by herself, but she shouldn't do something that would make Karin cry. Hanano clattered and told her to not look down on her so much. She started scolding her, saying that she was able to live without being inconvenienced by anything, by relying only on herself, and up till now she had never needed or relied on a male. Also, Karin was the most important thing to her, so Yoshio would never come out above her. The more she talked, the louder she got, so Reina seemed pretty scared of her. Hanano continued. She said that Yoshio wasn't overbearing, or weak, which she didn't like. She can't deny that having him around brings her peace of mind. That's why she planned to wait patiently. After all those words, Reina had no other choice but to say that if her sister says so, then it would be fine. But she still didn't stop teasing her by saying not to flirt with Yoshio in front of Karin. Hanano denied doing that ever, but Reina said that her sister was quite easy, and she would be held captive the moment she hears something like, "Let me touch your boobs." Hanano responded to her teasing by stating that her habit of messing around was the reason why she never got a boyfriend. She reminded her that she asked Yoshio out yesterday. Reina immediately got defensive and denied wanting someone like Yoshio. Hanano said that being stubborn like that was the reason why she was no good. When Reina responded that she was the one who had one strike, which meant a divorce, things heated up and they started to fight. As they were fighting, Yoshio came and asked Reina if she wanted some turmeric. The girl started rumbling towards him and started asking interesting questions to him. Yoshio stated that he liked big breasts the most, so she preferred Hanano, who had big breasts. Moving on to the next chapter, it was one of those days when Yoshio was feeling drained. Karin and Hanano seemed worried, so Hanano asked what was wrong. Karin said that he became like that after they watched a movie together. She told Yoshio that if he can't watch scary stuff, he should have said that from the start, because she wouldn't force him to do something with her if he didn't like it. Yoshio denied it and stated that he could not do something like that because he would do anything for Karin's sake. Karin teared up and then told him that if he said stuff like that, she would be the one that would be worried. It was already late, so Yoshio decided to get going. When he left, Karin stated her worries. She said that Yoshio would be alone and she would feel bad if he was too scared to fall asleep. Hanano also wondered if he would be alright. Karin asked if she could offer to sleep with him since she also let Karin sleep with her. Hanano ignored her question and told her to take a bath. The next day, it was clear that Yoshio did not sleep last night. Hanano Hanano noticed that and asked if she didn't get any sleep, and even though he was embarrassed to admit, he said that he didn't. He asked if he could rest in their living room and then dozed off. Hanano felt guilty for him for some reason. Back then, Karen also had things she was afraid of. She was fine with things like ghosts, but thunder was scary for her. She would rest her head in the middle of Hanano's breasts and call it Opai, barrier, but she didn't think she could do the same thing for Yoshio. She sat next to him and moved, putting his head on her lap. She told him to not be scared, and it was going to be alright. Looking at her from below made Yoshio forget every single fear he had since the moment of his birth. He was so amazed that he couldn't even change his facial expression. After almost a minute, he jumped up and thanked Hanano with a bit of enthusiasm. He took out his shirt and said that he felt like he wouldn't lose against anything, whether it was zombies or cold-blooded murderers. Hanano was shocked, but still happy that she was able to help. He then said that the movie he watched yesterday seemed like there was a sequel to it, so he wanted to watch it with Karen when she got home because he believed he could overcome his fears. But the next scene showed that it was no good and he should just start over. By the way, not even 1% of the viewers subscribe. How surprising is that? I hope I can't say the same for this video. In this scene, Karen and Yoshio are sitting in her room. Yoshio had been wondering something. He said that if he married Hanano, then at the same time, Karen would be her daughter. But if she does something wrong, he doesn't feel like he could get mad at her. He said that he would listen to everything she had to say, but he wanted her to let him get mad at her sometimes. Karen looked at him with no emotion at first, but then told him to think about himself more than her. Yoshio asked if she couldn't rely on his parents, and she said that she couldn't be motivated. She decided to comfort him and told him to not worry, because even if he was a bad guy, she wouldn't hate him. But she mentioned that he didn't give Dad a dad-like vibe at all, which was probably because she never met her dad. Yoshio didn't know that. It was like that even before she was born. She said that Yoshio was more like a brother, or a boyfriend rather than a dad, but she didn't feel that way towards him. So she decided that he was a convenient male friend, or a useless boob-loving pervert, which sounded perfect for a person like Yoshio. From now on, she decided that he was her convenient friend. The topic changed, and she wondered if the fact that her mom turning red was exciting. She told Yoshio to pretend like she was Hanano, and propose like he always does. Apparently, she just wanted to know how it left. Yoshio was going to refuse, but when Karen held his hand, he decided to go for it, and proposed to her. Karen, the 12-year-old girl, blushed and decided to escape. Yoshio was confused and asked where she was going. When she was about to go out the door, her and Yoshio's feet both hit the same spot on the door, and they ended up being in a position that could get him arrested. Yoshio pulled himself together and asked if she was okay. Karen said that it was amazing and she was startled. That night, Yoshio stated that he felt a certain affection for Hanano's dinner. It was like the dinner was always ready to respond to his love. While he was talking, Karen was still thinking about why she got so excited when he proposed to her. The moment he proposed to her kept playing in her head, and she got so red. At least she knew the way she felt was wrong and decided to go around the apartment. In this scene, we see Reina sitting on the couch with an attitude. When Yoshio asked what happened, she responded that she fought with her parents. She suddenly started yelling that it was annoying to get a regular job in order to get married. Hanano came and said that she would rather she had a regular job. Reina told her to hire her as her assistant, but that was out of the question because of Hanano's job. Reina said that if her parents wanted a grandchild, Karen was already there, so it should be okay if she didn't get married. Hanano asked if she even had the desire to get married. Reina thought about it for a moment, then stated that she did. She started singing the lyrics of a love song about going on a date and then taking a nap together. Yoshio seemed pretty impressed by her response. They both really get along well. Hanano stopped them, and Reina answered Hanano's question by saying that there was no partner for her to marry. She then took a look at Yoshio, and before she could say something inappropriate again, Hanano stopped her and suggested she stay at her house for a while, and she would listen to her anytime. Yoshio accepted this suggestion before Reina, but she stopped him and said that Hanano was good, but that wasn't the case because it was a very special heterosexual thing to do. Hanano said that married life was about helping each other, and if she were like that, she couldn't find anyone for her. Reina panicked and claimed that she didn't want to help her, but she was just sick of it. She said that she could also help each other with things. To prove that somehow, she decided to grab Yoshio's hand and let him grab one of her boobs. Yoshio was a dead man, and Hanano just froze. She let his hands go, and then asked how much happy he was now that he touched Reina's soft boobs. Yoshio covered his face and stated that he might die tomorrow. Reina was talking, but then she noticed her sister's face. Hanano's eyes were teared up, and she seemed like she was about to cry her eyes out. Reina tried to explain that she was just kidding and wasn't serious. She told Yoshio to do something, so he told Hanano that he liked both Hanano and Reina equally, like it would help. Reina tried to say that she was a little exaggerated with her boobs, and reminded her that she wasn't a kid anymore, but that was not the case for Hanano, and she kicked them out. Yoshio offered Reina to come over, as she had no place to go at that hour. Reina, who ended up being in Yoshio's house, seemed surprised because there was literally nothing in his room. Yoshio said it was a principle where one should have only kept the minimum necessary things. Reina told him that was a minimalism and asked him why he was making such a dark face. Yoshio told her that it was a shock for him that Hanano cried. Reina said it was just a little bit overdone and it was going to be okay after one night. Reina wanted to cheer him up and asked him if he wanted to regain his mind by having fun with her. Yoshio just looked confused, and Reina first tried to convince him, but finally gave up. She told him to go to bed and asked if they had any more blankets left. Yoshio told her that she had a sleeping bag he used for a while, so he wanted her to feel free to use the bed. Reina asked Yoshio what he was doing alone. He told her he was sleeping or surfing the internet. She asked about his meal when he was alone. He was giving the shortest answer possible, so he answered that cup noodles. Reina told him that he was living a colorless life. Yoshio asked if Reina also liked to spend time lazily, because he knew that she liked that. Reina told him that she liked being sloppy with all her might, and she felt like he was at least alive. Reina said it wasn't like his sister needed Yoshio, rather she shouldn't have needed it. Reina said once Hanano also said that marriage was about helping each other. She thought about Karen, and when she thought about it, she said she was no good at thinking, so told him to sleep. The last sentence she said was that if Yoshio needed someone else, she would be there for him, but he already fell asleep. The next morning, Yoshio and Reina decided to go back to Hanano. When they arrived, Hanano asked them why they didn't come back. She was so worried. Reina told her that she was the one who kicked them out. Hanano said she didn't mean it seriously. Reina told her that she stayed at Yoshio's place, which was fine. Reina told Hanano not to worry. She didn't sleep with Yoshio. Hanano told her that she was not worried about that. Reina told them that she was in a good mood, so she would be going home. She got close to Yoshio and told him that if he got dumped by Hanano, she told him not to worry, because she would always be with him. After that, she said she was out, and she left. After Reina left, Hanano asked Yoshio if he was going to eat breakfast. He wanted to have breakfast. He said he was glad Hanano didn't seem to be angry. When they were on the way to the kitchen, she leaned her breasts against Yoshio's back. Yoshio felt a softness in his back. Hanano asked him what was wrong and if he liked it. Yoshio threw himself forward and ignored her. She immediately apologized and told him to come back and eat the breakfast she made. Yoshio had no choice but to go back and eat, so he went and ate breakfast. He told her it was delicious. Hanano asked if that was all and what happened to his praises. She wasn't sure if he liked it or not. While he was eating breakfast, Hanano approached him and asked him if he would propose to feed her like he usually did. Karen came to the kitchen and asked Yoshio if he made Mom angry and asked her what the f he did and called him pervert. He said he groped Reina's chest. Karen said Mom was just jealous. She asked Yoshio to hug her and suggested that it would be an easy victory. Karen found it fun to make a Mom and Yoshio's great reconciliation strategy. Karen started her planning of reconciliation strategy. First, she decided to be served by a primary school student. She told Yoshio that if her mom, Hanano, was jealous that he touched Reina's boobs, then it would be fine if he just touched her mom's boobs. She asked if it would be super bad. Yoshio said it would be fine. Karen agreed that, and told him that was because Hanano was easy, unlike her. She told him if he was going to do something, then do it in one go. She criticized him for that, and didn't find it manly. He said, but for something like that, he would need to get her consent. She told him that he was strangely upright when it came to that. She told Yoshio to just slam her with his true desires, as love was a carnal desire. He found Karen quite passionate. Then Karen said she would go check in on Hanano and told him to come back later. When Karen went to her mom, Hanano, she asked her if she was angry, and if she heard it from Yoshio. Hanano said she wasn't angry with him. Hanano said once she thought about it, she was old enough to know better yet. She went and did something super immature. She said not only that, but even went as far as using her breasts. She hugged her girl Karen and told her that she was so embarrassed and wanted to crawl into a hole. Then both Hanano and Karen went to Yoshio and told him that the plan was all for nothing, as Hanano wasn't angry anymore. Yoshio took a deep breath and suggested to Hanano to do it. Hanano was happy, and her chest out. She asked what he was suddenly saying in front of a child. He opened his eyes and said his feelings got ahead of him. He told Hanano to let him touch her boobs in order for them to reconcile. They both again seemed shocked, and Karen told Yoshio that it was bad timing. Karen tried to explain it and told Hanano that it wasn't what it looked like. Yoshio was just lewd, as Karen said. She told Hanano that because he liked Hanano, that's why his feelings turned lewd. It was only towards Hanano, and it was not like he felt any carnal desires towards her. Hanano warned Karen not to use such a word. Yoshio frankly said he had actually been flustered by Karen before. Karen tried to stop him by saying she was not easy. After Karen tried to change the subject, Hanano asked Yoshio if he was concerned about what happened yesterday. She apologized that morning and told him that she wasn't mature about it. Yoshio told her that she didn't have to apologize, and Reina was a nice person, but as someone who was proposing to a single woman, he thought that wasn't appropriate behavior. Even if Hanano and Yoshio's great reconciliation strategy wasn't applied, they reconciled. Karen seems glad that both of them didn't have a big fight, while it would have been nice to see the fight in person. Karen said if it became irreparable, then she would have been in trouble. However, she said that was a rare chance for him to touch some boobs. He must have been very disappointed. He said certainly in tears. Karen tried to cheer him up to touch Hanano's boobs. Yoshio said that he wasn't going to let her touch them. Then Hanano held his hand and pulled toward herself. Yoshio held her boob and squished it. He seemed really happy. They got a harsh scolding, so they turned a new leaf. In the next scene, Hanano wanted to celebrate how the manuscript came out all right by drinking with her sister Reina. Reina seemed surprised and stated that it might not be the best idea for her. But Hanano didn't think it was fair if only she got to drink. She opened a can of beer and started drinking. A few minutes later, she was already drunk and started talking about how hard her life was and how she wanted to be spoiled sometimes. A single can of beer was enough to make her wasted. She suddenly wanted Karen to spoil her and decided to wake her up. Reina obviously didn't let her cause trouble. She reminded her that Yoshio would dote on her if she just asked him, but since he was unreliable, she didn't want that. Meanwhile, Yoshio was talking about squeezing some boobs in his sleep. Hanano wanted Reina to spoil her and started hugging her boobs. She said that when Karen was small, she would do this all the time. It was true that she used to come to Reina's boobs a lot. Hanano suddenly took off the shirtie Reina was wearing. When Reina panicked and asked her what she was doing, she said that it would feel better if they were bare. Reina told her to not get carried away. That was the whole reason why she didn't want her to get drunk. She suddenly felt sleepy, so Reina held her and led her to her bed. In the hallway, Karen woke up to go to the bathroom. Hanano hugged Karen. Seeing her mother drunk made her smile, and she told Hanano that she loved her. She then panicked and ran away to her room. Reina said that she was raised into a good kid, but this made Hanano want to go to sleep with Karen while drunk. In this scene, Yoshio and Hanano are sitting at the table. Yoshio said that those relaxing laid-back days were very peaceful in married life. Hanano reminded him that they weren't married. She then asked if he was doing all right in terms of college. Yoshio said that he was doing perfectly fine because he wasn't going. He said that he would be repeating a year already, so there was no need to be worried. Hanano seemed even more worried, but when he said that he didn't care about anything else except her and Karen, she let her guard down. Hanano mentioned that she was still worried about their age difference. By the time he turned 30, she would be 40. And if he went to college, there would be tons of pretty girls around his age. Yoshio responded that no matter how many cute girls were at college, his feelings feelings wouldn't change. This sentence seemed impressive to Hanano. Yoshio suddenly stood up and grabbed Hanano's shoulder. He started staring at her eyes, causing her to freak out. He eventually spoke and told her that she had beautiful skin and a childlike face, so he didn't think she would look different 10 years from now. After proving that he needed therapy, he asked her to stand up for a second. He started to filter her body and clothes. He said that her style was also outstanding and no one would doubt it if he said she was currently a university student. Hanano seemed touched, so she asked if he was being honest, and he mentioned that the only unrealistic thing would be his erotic body. Hanano realized that his ulterior motives were about to show, but Yoshio wasn't trying to hide them anyway. Hanano was happy that Yoshio thought she was a young, beautiful woman. As she was talking, Yoshio started staring at her boobs again. She asked if he was trying to flatter her so that he could do something naughty. Yoshio seemed so calm about this and reminded her that, as she had mentioned before, he knew where to draw the line now, so she had nothing to be worried about. Realizing that she was the one with the naughty thoughts, Hanano blushed, and then asked if he lied when he said she looked erotic. Yoshio asked if he could touch them, but she obviously refused him. She said that there should be standards for a man and woman if they weren't married, and even though it was tough, it wouldn't change. Yoshio decided to go back to the topic of their conversation and asked if it was resolved. Assuming that the age difference was resolved, Yoshio didn't see any problem with not getting married. In this scene, Hanano was stretching when Yoshio came. They greeted each other, and Hanano was surprised that he was up early today. He said that he usually hears the door open when Karin goes to school around 7:30. But this time it opened 2 hours earlier, so he came to check it out. He noticed her clothes, so she explained that she was thinking about going running. Hanano invited him, but he refused. He asked if she was trying to diet. He thought she was running because she was heavy, and reminded her that she was heavy only because of her huge boobs. She said that she wasn't heavy, so he assumed she got fat, but she refused that too. She explained that she didn't get any exercise since she was always sitting for work, and she wanted to stay healthy for Karin's sake. After hearing her, Yoshio wanted to join her. They started running. While running, Yoshio noticed that Hanano's boobs were moving a lot, which made him feel dizzy and fell. Hanano decided to walk with him until he got better. He said that he tried his best to keep his eyes on those swaying breaths, but apparently his passion wasn't enough, so he apologized. This sounded like a weird reason to feel sorry for. Yoshio asked if she was going this far for Karin. As someone who doesn't really put in effort, he wanted to ask this. Hanano said that even though she said it was for Karin, it was also for herself, because she wanted her to always be smiling. Yoshio couldn't really tell he had his own ambitions, but if he thought about her and Karin, he was sure he would have something to strive for. But of course, he ruined another moment by saying he just got to picture those boobs.